Hi there, it's the Common Magician, and I want to have a discussion here. This is related to some things we've talked about before, but I'm going to kind of expound on them and look at a complete sort of packaged idea, principle here for you to use if you're interested. And this will have wide-ranging application even beyond what we discuss here. It will actually relate to some things that some of you already use regularly. This is actually an extension on a conversation that I started on one of my Penguin projects, which was the going home effect. I have a little bonus discussion on there where I talk about sequential 13-card sequential stacks. So 13-card repeating cyclical sequential stacks like the Stebbins stack, 8 king stack, various other kinds of stacks that use a sequence of 13 cards that repeat. You have 4 sections of 13 cards. Essentially, you're thinking about this kind of like a new deck where you have everything broken up into suit, except it's not broken up into suit. It's broken up by a sequence of values that repeats in all 4 sections, and the suits have some kind of algorithmic placement that follows a sequence as well. So this will apply to any one of those kinds of stacks. I'm actually going to show you a stack here that's easy to memorize because there is a little bit of memorization you have to do. Essentially what we need to do is we need to memorize the first 13. We need to memorize the 13 values in the order that they're in. That's one thing. The second thing is we need to know what is the sequence of suits. So if I have a 2 of something in section 1, what is the suit of that 2 going to be in the next section and in the next section and in the 4th section? So what is the sequence of suits section by section? And this is a stack I'm going to just quickly teach you based on principles we've already talked about on here and ideas I've shared before. A stack that you can put together that is easy to memorize for that 13-card sequence and the sequence of suits. So before we get into that, though, I just want to quickly give you my philosophy on this. Some people talk about jazzing with a memorized deck. This is not a memorized deck. This is kind of a hybrid idea. This is a stack that has parts of it that are memorized, and then we're going to use algorithms to apply to that sequence to the rest of the deck. And on top of that, we're going to use a couple of different methods to manipulate the deck or manipulate our understanding of the deck so that we can get to thought of cards. Someone names a card, something they're thinking of, and we can reveal it in some way from this deck of cards without too much mental gymnastics. I don't know about you, but when I get in front of people and I do any kind of performance, I need to be hyper prepared for it. Spontaneous math, even simple math, is not something I do well. I tend to kind of choke under those circumstances. We're going to talk about some simple math, but also some other ideas using mathematics, but kind of discarding the head math and using manipulation to make it work a little bit easier for you. So, jazzing. Some people talk about jazzing with the mem deck. I just want to, without insulting your intelligence, because many of you already know this, I just want to quickly talk about what that means. Jazzing, in terms of the metaphor, a person who's a jazz musician, I think the metaphor there is kind of alluding to improvisation, an improvisatory sort of activity where they are making something up in the moment. There's a spontaneity to what they're doing. They're coming up with ideas sort of in that moment in order to create a performance that may never be seen again and has never been seen before and deliver an effect, right? That is not really what that means. So a jazz musician is somebody, a good one, is somebody who has a wide vocabulary that they can use. So this is not about the spontaneity. This is not about the spontaneity of the never done before. This is about the spontaneous implementation of the done 1,000 times. Okay? A jazz musician knows their scales, they know scale patterns and alterations, They know chords, they know arpeggiations, they know arpeggiation patterns, they know rhythmic vocabulary, so combinations of rhythms that they can actually see in their mind's eye and replicate into sound. And they are, in a modular way, able to combine these things together and have done so through experience, such that they have a wide-ranging vocabulary that they can pull on at any moment. These are things they've done over and over and over and over again. You cannot really teach improvisation in an informational way. You don't, as a musician, you don't sort of get the information of the scale and then you're able to improvise. You get the information of the scale, and then this is my saxophone, and then you practice it over and over and over in various keys and transpositions until it's an acquired, automatic, trained skill, okay? When you use that metaphor for card magic, it has to mean the same thing if it's done right. And I believe that. That's my philosophy. So what we're looking at is a modular application of tactics that we can pull upon. They are things that we've rehearsed, that we know, they're automatic. We can pull on them in a moment to deliver an effect. That is jazzing with a deck of cards, okay? With a memorized deck or with some other kind of mechanical deck, right? This is really a mechanical deck is what we're looking at. So that's the philosophy. Let's dig into this and look at this stack and what I'm doing here. So if you look at the stack, you probably can't see very well on the camera from where I'm at, but if you look at the stack, you'll note that it looks shuffled, okay? There's a variety of suits and a different combination of suits. You can see all the suits together within a reasonable amount of space. There's no numerical patterns that seem repetitive, at least reasonably repetitive. That's par for the course for cyclical 13-card sequential cyclical stacks. With one of those stacks, people say, oh, it's got an order to it that people can recognize. No, they can't. If you put that out there under fair viewing, nobody notices that. With a couple of exceptions. If you have a repetitive sequence of 13 cards and you also have a 4-card sequence of suits, that's when it gets a little weird, because if you see red, black, red, black, red, black, or you start to get kind of the piano key effect, right? 2 blacks, 3 blacks, 2 blacks, 3 blacks, that kind of thing. If you have that, then you can note the sort of patterns that are in there. This avoids that, okay? So what I have here kind of gets away from that sort of Cy Stebbins problem. If you are a Cy Stebbins user and you don't do effects that rely on the suits, particularly being in that chased order that we usually do with Cy Stebbins, I highly recommend that you use a different suit order that has changes at known frequencies. That way you can break up those patterns a bit. What I'm going to do is we're going to come up with 4 sections of repeating values that have a known suit configuration. So let me take out the first group here. I'll talk about what it is. So here's our first group of 13 cards. And this is the sequence of numbers and values. These are ideas I've talked about before, but they're applied here in a 13-card sequence. Jack is 1, so you just remember this, okay, for your 13-card sequence, because it's going to replicate in all the other sections. Jack is 1, 5 is 2, because 5 and 2 are mirror images of the same kind of figure. So 5 is 2 and 2 is 5. So 5 sits at 2. 8 sits at 3. 8 is like 2 3s that are mirrored together and then fused in the middle, and they make this sort of figure 8, round figure on top of another round, the snowman figure. So 8 and 3 are very much related. The 8 sits in the 3 position. 4 is always going to sit in 4. Because everything else around it is going to be in a different spot, 4 can just stay where it's at. So we have Jack is 1, 5 sits in 2, 8 sits in 3, 4 sits in 4, 2 sits in 5, because 5 and 2 switch. 9 is going to sit in 6, and 6 is going to sit in 9 in a minute, and that's because 9 and 6 are the same figure, they're just rotated. So 9 is 6, 7 is going to sit in 7. So 4 and 7 sit in the same, in their normal spots. Okay, so Jack is 1, 5 is 2, 8 is 3, 4 is 4, 2 is 5, 9 is 6, 7 is 7. King is going to be 8. I think of the king, if you kind of close off the top and the bottom, it would make an 8 figure. You'd have kind of a section at the top and a section at the bottom. King is going to be 8. 6 is going to be 9, because 9 and 6 are interchangeable. The 9 is in the 6 spot, the 6 is in the 9 spot. Ace is going to be 10. You just have to memorize that. Aces are 10s in this. Ace will always be in the 10 spot. 10 is going to be in the 11 spot. So memorize that one. Ace is in 10, 10 is in 11. Queen is going to be in 12, and queen is 12. So 4, 7, and queen are going to be in their respective sequence in the 13 card sequence in a normal deck of cards. 4, 7, and queen. And 3 is going to be 13, and that's really easy to remember, 13 and 3. So again, we have Jack is 1, 5 is 2, 8 is 3, 4 is 4, 2 is 5, 9 is 6, 7 is 7, king is 8, 6 is 9, ace is 10, 10 is 11, queen is 12, 3 is 13. Okay, so that's the sequence. All of the 4 sections will go like that. Now, for each section, the first section on top is going to be mostly spades. So everything is a spade except for the court cards and the 4 and the 7. So all the cards are spades except for the court cards and the 4 and the 7. The 4 and the 7 and the court cards are going to be opposite color. So that will be the same way all the way through the deck. So here we have spades on top, and that's black. So the court cards, the 4 and the 7, are going to be red. Okay. For the 4 and the 7, it's going to be what I call the related suit. So I think of spades and hearts as looking very similar. They're kind of exactly the same figure, except the spade has a little piece that sticks down the handle on the spade, right? But otherwise they're the same figure, they're just inverted. So the 4 and the 7 are the related suit. So here in the spade group, I'm going to put the 4 and the 7 of hearts among the spades. And I'm going to do the same with the 4 and 7 of spades among the hearts. And the hearts are going to be the next section. So the spades and the hearts groups go together. The spades is first, hearts is second, and their 4 and the 7, they swap. For the court cards, we're going to go to the opposite suit group, which is going to be diamonds. So the non-related suit group, opposite color, is the diamond. So for the spades, it's going to be the diamonds, suit cards, court cards, and for the hearts, it's going to be the club court cards, opposite color, unrelated suit. Okay, so far we have here the Jack of diamonds is 1, 5 of spades is 2, 8 of spades is 3, 4 of hearts is 4, opposite related suit. 2 of spades is 5, 9 of spades is 6, 7 of hearts is 7, opposite related suit. King of diamonds, opposite color, unrelated suit, is 8, 9 is the 6 of spades, 10 is the ace of spades, 11 is the 10 of spades. Queen of diamonds, opposite unrelated suit, opposite color, unrelated suit, is 12. And the 13th spot is the 3 of spades. That's the suit we're in. So that is the premise, okay? Next section on top of that is going to be the heart section, essentially. And the heart section follows the same kind of pattern. So spades is first, hearts is second. This is the hierarchy of suits in a game. So spades is the most valuable, hearts is the second, clubs would be the next, and then the diamonds would be last. So it's red, it's black, red, spades, hearts, clubs, diamonds. Those are the kind of the bulk groupings of the suits in my sequential stack here. So Jack of clubs, opposite color, unrelated suit, this is among the hearts, is 1. 5 of hearts is 2, 8 of hearts is 3, 4 of spades, opposite color related suit, spades and hearts, is 4, 2 of hearts is 5, 9 of hearts is 6, 7 of spades is 7, king of clubs is 8, 6 of hearts is 9, ace of hearts is 10, 10 of hearts is 11, queen of clubs is 12, and 3 of hearts is 13. So if you understand that, then on to the clubs is the next major group. And now we're going to be dealing with clubs and diamonds as related suits, and they're nothing alike. So spades and hearts are very much related, and clubs and diamonds are nothing alike, which we'll say makes them related suits. Okay, we have Jack of Hearts, opposite color, unrelated suit, is among the clubs. Jack of Hearts is 1, 5 of clubs is 2, 8 of clubs is 3, 4 of diamonds. Opposite color related suit is the 4, is the 4th position. 2 of clubs is 5, 9 of clubs is 6, 7 of diamonds is 7. King of Hearts, opposite color unrelated suit, is 8. 6 of clubs is 9, ace of clubs is 10, 10 of clubs is 11. Queen of Hearts, opposite color unrelated suit, is 12, and the 3 of clubs is 13. And then the last group is going to be the diamonds. So this is the last one. The bulk of it is diamonds, but we have these court cards and the 4 and the 7s in their opposite color, different suits breaking it up. Jack of Spades, opposite color, unrelated suit among the diamonds is 1. 5 of diamonds is 2. 8 of diamonds is 3. 4 of clubs, opposite color, related suit is 4. 2 of diamonds is 5. 9 of diamonds is 6. 7 of clubs is 7. King of Spades, opposite color, unrelated suit is 8. King of Spades is 8. 6 of diamonds is 9. Ace of diamonds is 10. 10 of diamonds is 11. Queen of Spades, opposite color, unrelated suit is 12. Queen of Diamonds is 12, and then 13 is the 3 of Diamonds. So that's it, right? Hopefully that very laborious explanation makes sense to you. Again, I'm not giving you a PDF or anything. You just have to, look back. But that's the stack, and hopefully just with that you have it memorized within the last 10 minutes, or 5 to 10 minutes here we went over this. Just by that, you should understand the sequence of the numbers and the way the suits work by group. That's all you need to know, okay? Group 1 is bulk of spades. Group 2 is bulk of hearts. Group 3 is bulk of clubs. Group 4 is bulk of diamonds. The last thing we're going to do to this deck to make it really usable, make it mechanical, is I'm going to take all of the jacks, which is 1 in every group, and I've given them a breather. So I have an X breather on each one. So the breather is going from the face through to the back. And what this does is it allows me to hold it in the hand. I can actually see the gaps where the different sections are. I can even potentially dead cut to the start of a group. I can do it in the hand or I can do it on the table. In the hand, I can actually see the separations when I hold it up, and the spectators can't see that. My thumb's in the way, but I can see that in the back edge, and I can easily cut to a group, displacing a section to the top if I need to, and that's going to play into what we do later on. So that's the stack, that's the sequence, that's my order, those are the suits, and that's how I index the cards, is by putting the first card in each group. That jack is going to have a breather in it. Very deep, stark breather. All right, let's talk about what our jazzing modules are going to be. So a jazz musician can be great if they have a very wide vocabulary. A jazz musician can be functional. We teach kids this in music. If they have just a couple of basic modules to pull from, if they know the blues scale, they can play a lot of repertoire. If they just have a blues scale and a few different common keys, they really don't need to think too hard about the progression, and they're able to do a respectable solo, right? Improvisational solo, just by having that scale down, and of course on top of that learning a little bit about rhythmic vocabulary. Similarly, if we have just a few modules to pick from, we can do some amazing things with this cyclical stack, okay? And using some head math, and if we're kind of afraid of that and we shy away from that, we can also use some manipulation that is consistent of the deck to avoid having to do any head math at all. All right, so let's talk about our modules. So the first one is cutting. So just by having this grouped into 4 sections of a known sequence and known pattern of suits, we can do the open prediction. We can do mnemonicosis. We can do the trick that can't be explained. right? Now, we can't give the deck to someone to shuffle necessarily. Actually, we can. I'll show you that in a second. But we typically wouldn't do that. We would do some kind of a false shuffle, procedure, false cut, and then we would work from there. But we can, through that, we can have someone cut, a spectator cut, and we can use some equivoque to get down to where we need to be if we don't just hit it by chance. So let's say we name a card here, something like, I don't know, the Two of Clubs, right? So the Two of Clubs is going to be the 5th card, and it's in the 3rd group, because that's the clubs groups. 2 is 5, and that's going to be in the 3rd group because it's club, right? So what we're looking at here is just a little bit more than half. So I know that it's in the 3rd grouping, and I know it's early on in it. It's not quite halfway through that group, so it's just a little more than half. When I have a spectator here, I can say, if they, let's say they thought of this card and they call it out, I can say, that's good. Why don't you just cut just a little bit more than half into my hand, right? And they'll try to do that, and they'll reach down there and they'll cut as best they can, just a little bit more than half, and they'll set it in your hand. What you can do from this point is you can actually get a glimpse of the bottom card, and you'll know where you're at, right? So I called the Two of Clubs. They cut a little more than half in my hand, and wouldn't you know, that's where we're at. And this is often how this works out, right? Because there's only so many cards, and with a very specific direction, again, we know the stack in quarters. So we can give really good direction. We can say just a few more there, something like that. There's no reason why we should know where this card is at if it's shuffled, and we can get them down to it. So let's say that they were just a little shy. Let's say that they cut to this position here. I can glimpse up and I can see that I'm at the 3rd in the stack, so I know that 4 and 5 is next. I saw the 8 of Clubs there. I know that there's a couple more to get to it, to the 2, right? So the next 2 would hit it. What I can do is I can say, you cut right here, but I just want to be sure. So we'll just take a look at just a few cards here, and I can do equivoque, right? So I know that it's going to be this one, right? This is going to be 4, and that's going to be 5, which is my 2. So I want them to pick that. So I say, can you just slide away any 2, right? So they slide away 2. Let's say they do those, and I pull this one back, and I say, just push one back there. So they push one back. They do that. I say, go ahead and take a look at the one that you've selected, and they turn it over, and their mind is blown. So that is a way to do this sort of cut and equivoque procedure. So that's the trick that can't be explained. If you have that written down, let's say you have an envelope where you have predicted a card, right? That's a way that you could do it through a false shuffle. You can't really relinquish control, but you could do that. Now, one thing you could do to relinquish control is you could preserve that stack. So let's say I predict something that's kind of in the middle or near the beginning of that stack. If I just preserve that group, so the first few cards, let's say the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or so cards in the stack, I can probably work with that because I have key cards around it, right? What I could do is I could either cut that close to the top or cut the beginning of the section to the top, right? And I can just preserve all of that quarter. And then what I can do is I could pass out the 1 quarter, this is the top quarter, to somebody, and I say shuffle these, and I could pass out another quarter to somebody and say shuffle these. They can shuffle them up, and as long as I take those packets back in the right order on top of that quarter that I need, and I bury it back into the place that it belongs, I could actually still do the mnemonicosis trick that can't be explained thing, and they shuffled the cards up. All I need to do is false shuffle my quarter, the one that preserves the stack that I use as my key, right? That's all I need to do. So just an idea for you to play around with if you wanted to have the spectators shuffle the cards. So that would add that kind of element to the presentation where you can relinquish control. So 1, we can cut and equivoque. Cut into the stack and equivoque. That's one kind of solution to any card that's called. It could be anywhere. I could say, you know, take, if it's in the top stack, let's say it was the two of spades, right? And it's going to be up here. It's going to be 5 in the top of the stack. Say, could you just cut off just a small packet, place it in my hand, right? This is, again, after a false shuffle. And then I get my glimpse. And then I know where I'm at in this stack. And I could say, I could just take a few cards right out of the middle, right? And they'll take a chunk of cards out of the middle, and I know they're going to hit it. Based on whatever's left in this hand, I know where I'm at. And then I can do my equivocate from that. So there's a lot of options for equivocate and getting down to those cards. You just give that direction, take off whatever gets you close, put it in the hand, get your glimpse, move from there. Another tactic is to have them cut and turn it over face up. I like to have them cut and put it in my hand, because that way I can just naturally, intuitively get my glimpse as I point. You know, they cut it in my hand. I can say, you cut to this position here, and I got my glimpse. I know where I'm at. So anyway, cutting and equivocate. Another one is the Maven. I call it the Maven J Elimination. This is something I've seen Max Maven do and Ricky J. I haven't really seen anybody else employ it, and I haven't read of it anywhere where they don't credit them. So I don't know where it comes from and where they get it or where they got it, but Max Maven, Ricky J, they have this really fun way of cutting out cards. Now what this requires is that you control the card of interest to the top. So same one, let's say they call out the 2 of clubs. I know that that is the 5th card in the 3rd grouping. I'm going to use my index to cut that group to the top of the deck. And then what I can do is I can do one of 2 things, one of 2 controls. I can thumb count, right? So I thumb count 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I cut that off, and I know that gets me to the 5th position, which is where my 2 is at. Or a little bit more control is I can just overhand shuffle 4 cards off and put them on the bottom. So this will take these 4 cards out of sequence. So I just have to remember that later on. But really, this procedure is going to wreck the deck anyway. I would count off 1, 2, 3, 4, throw them on the bottom, maybe do a false overhand just to make it seem a little bit more fair, and then maybe a false cut. And then I'm now set up to do the Maven J Elimination. The way this works is beautiful. You spread away from somebody and you say, just take a chunk of cards off, or you can tell them to point. Maven says point to a location, and then he takes cards away. Ricky J says just take some cards away. So they'll take some cards away, and then what you do is your force cards on the top, you take the cards back, and then you spread away from somebody else. And you have them do the same thing. You're always taking off the bottom until you get to that card on the top. Once you get down to about 4 cards, then you do equivocate. Now, one thing you want to do is probably slip this card in, not from the end, but slip it into one of the middle ones. So you kind of reorganize them, and then that's your force card, and you're done. Okay, so the Maven J Elimination, it's just a brilliant kind of thing that people don't catch on to. You can do false overhand shuffles in between, right? Just a optical shuffle between each one of these eliminations, and it looks wonderful. It looks completely haphazard. So we'll put that back. So we have a cutting and equivocate, the Maven J Elimination and equivocate. All these end with equivocate. All of my ideas here. Another one is the 52 Corral, which I spoke about earlier on an earlier video, the video just before this one on the channel. If you look at that, you'll see where I talk about boxing in using a large number equivocate, boxing spectators down to outs. And you could apply this to the stack. Before we do that, though, we need to talk about how do you know card for position. So this is a control. We already talked about the overhand control, the indexed overhand control. So if you cut the index, use your jack index and cut that section to the top, you can overhand shuffle off the cards you want to control to the top. And the thumb count control we talked about. For card to position, let's talk about math first before we talk about using the controls. Mathematically, the way this works is that the numbers are displaced by 3 with each section, right? So it's plus 3. The first section is 1 through 13. Section number 2 is in the right location in the teens, starting in the teens, but it's plus 3. So number 1 is actually in the teens, but it's plus 3. It's not 11. It's not 12 or 13, but it's 14. It's plus 3. It's 11 plus 3, right? Does that make sense? So 1 is going to be in the 14th position. 2 is going to be in the next one, right? The 15th position and 16th and so on. So this second group is plus 3. The third group is plus 6. And you think about the third group starting in the 20s. It's actually 27 is the first card. So if you think about 1 plus 6 is 27. So whatever number you're thinking about in here, you have to add 6 to it and put it in the 20s group. And it's quickly going to go over into the 30s, obviously, if it's starting at 27. So just remember that you're starting at 27. So anything above, you see, 1 is 27, 2 is 28, 3 is 29, and then by 4 kicks into 30, right? So if you think about the 4th position plus 6 starting in the 20s, that already puts you past, right? 4 plus 6 puts you over the line. You're now at 10, so you're into the next group, right? So once you get to 10, you have to add that 10's group. You see, the math is not complicated, just adding 3 or 6, but you have to get the 10's group right. Once you add 10, once you come to a sum of 10, you have to add another 10's position, puts you into 30. And then the 4th is plus 9. Or it's easier, you can think of the 4th group, the diamonds group in this case, or whatever group, whatever stack you're dealing with. The 4th group is actually minus 1 starting at 40. So minus 1 in the 40s, and all of these are 40 through 52, right? And it's minus 1. So instead of 41, this is actually going to be 40. So the jack is not 1, but it's actually the 0. 2 is not 2, but it's actually 1. So this is going to be the 5 of diamonds is going to be at the first 41, right? So that's the math. Now, you can think about that math and do that in your head. That's one way to do it. So I could think of the 2 of hearts, for example, right, is going to be in the second group, and it's going to be the plus 3. And because the 2 of hearts is in the 5th position, plus 3 is going to put me in 18. Right, so something plus 3. There's a better way, though. If math really turns your stomach, think of this. All you need to remember is to manipulate the right number of cards from the top or to the top. Okay, so the first set is always going to be 13 cards in sequence. For the second set, though, right, the next group, the hearts group, what I want to do is just take 3 cards off the top and put them on the bottom. I just take the opportunity to do that. And now all of the second group is going to be starting at 21, at 11. It's going to be in the teens and going up. So I've just displaced all the cards in the second grouping starting at 11. The first card in the teens, the first position in the teens, 11 and up. Okay, so jack of clubs is going to be at 11, right? And the 5 of hearts is going to be at 12. So that's the 5 is the 2 card. It's going to be at 12. Just by displacing 3 cards from the top. If I'm dealing with the third grouping, which is the bulk clubs group, what I want to do is displace not 3 cards, but 6 cards. If I displace 6 cards from the top, now the clubs are sitting in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Of course, once you get to 10, you jump to 10's position. But it's in that sequence starting in the 20s. Okay? So the clubs are now sitting, that jack of hearts is now sitting at 21. And if I count down to it, you'll see I'm right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, Jack of Hearts. You can see that this works out. So I don't have to do math in my head. All I got to know is what group I'm in, and I cut the right number of cards off. And then it automatically puts it in sequence, starting in the teens for the second group, 20s for the third group. Now for the fourth group, we do something a little bit different. For the fourth group, instead of cutting 9 cards off the top, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 1 card off the bottom. Now, this displaces the 3 of diamonds, right? But what I'm going to do is just memorize that the 3 of diamonds in my stack, memorize the face card, because if that gets called out, I'm not going to count to it. You know what I mean? If someone says 3 of diamonds, awesome. I'm going to say, just put your finger on that and press. And what you're doing is you're pressing the 3 of diamonds all the way to the bottom of the deck. And there it is, right? You do some other kind of revelation. You don't count down to that. So I'm going to displace 1 card from the bottom and put it on the top. And now that puts the sequence of the fourth group in the 40s, starting at 41. 41 to 52 in that proper sequence. Okay, so in that case, right, the 2 of diamonds is in the 5th position now. It's in the 45th position if I counted it out. Whereas before, if I'd left that card on the bottom, I'd have to do the -1. It's in 44. So you have some options now in terms of handling. The best way to do this is not by asking someone something and then cutting cards off like that. I mean, you could look for an offbeat moment and do that. I find the best way to do this is to just be careless with the deck. It's the Danny Day Ortiz thing, right? If you give it kind of a sloppy spread there, right away I have control. I've got my fingers on the top 6 cards. I can see where 6 starts. I can see where 3 starts right here. And I also have control of the bottom card right there. It's just a sloppy kind of spread. And all I do at this moment is I have someone think of a card, and then whenever I go to pick up, let's go with our 2 theme, right? Let's say they said the 2 of clubs, right? So the 2 of clubs, what I need to do is I need to cut 6 to get to the third group. I see where that's at, 3 and 6. I reach down, I pick up the deck, and I very sloppily put my thumb down on the card just before the 6th card, and I push it off, and then I pick it up and I set it on top of those 6 cards. I've now cut openly 6 cards to the bottom of the deck. And I say, and this is of course after I've already done my false shuffles and everything. Now I'm set to do a revelation, and I know where my card is at. It's at its location. 2 of clubs is in the 5. In the 20s, it's 25. Okay, so I've now shifted everything to where it is in its numerical value. So 25 is going to be the 2 of clubs if I count this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. By the way, just I want to point out how good this looks counting face up, right? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. 2 of clubs, I'm there. And completely undetectable. I understand card for position because I cut the right number off the top. Okay, so manipulation rather than mental math, that's my style. I'd much rather do that. If I have to use a stack in this way, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut cards off and kind of recalibrate where the cards are at. So I don't have to do any mental gymnastics. I don't have to do simple math on the fly. All I got to remember is what number to cut for what group. Okay, so hearts, the bulk hearts group is going to get 3, the bulk clubs group is going to get 6, and the bulk diamonds group, I got to do 1 in reverse. Other ideas for you to use, spelling outs. Some people swear by these. You think about this. It's not my style, but if you have sort of all you need is spelling outs for the card you're at and the next card. So you can use one spelling out or counting out, some kind of indication that you can bring in to spell or count, some justification for it, to a spot which will work for that spot and the one after it, because you can spell out and then have the reveal, right? So you can figure that on your own, but with 13 cards, and you obviously don't need one for the top card, you need something potentially for 2 to 3, 4 to 5, 6 to 7, 8 to 9, 10 to 11, 12 to 13. So you would need potentially just those 6 kinds of outs. So if you want to program in spelling outs, and you can use them universally for every single card in the deck because you've indexed the jacks, you've indexed card number 1. It's a simple matter of lifting just on the overhand false shuffle, throwing on top, and now you've organized the proper group to the top, and you use your spelling out from there, right? So you come up with it with whatever works for you, but that is another option I've thought about. I don't use that, I don't have that, but it would put more in your arsenal. And it's not a lot to memorize. Just come up with 6 things that get you to the proper numbers that you can reliably call upon and use. So those are my ideas for this. So kind of a deep dive into a 13 card sequential stack manipulation outside of the 13 sequential stack card tricks that you can do. Obviously, one thing you can do with sequential stacks like this is you can do Pharaoh shuffles, and it puts four of a kind together. You can get every 4 of a kind together by doing that. So there is a great benefit to using 13 card sequential stacks, not just those tricks, but also using Pharaoh shuffles to get to 4 of a kind. Someone could call a 4 of a kind, you can do some Pharaoh shuffles, and you can get to it quite magically, and then shuffle the rest of the deck. So quick recap, my stack, go back in the video to follow the stack. Index the first card in each group of 13. Modules for your jazzing, right? So module revelations and handlings, overhand shuffle control, shuffle off, thumb off, run cards off to control down to a card, cutting, guided cutting, and equivocate, the Maven J Elimination, thumb counting, spelling outs if you need them, mental math, 3 for group 2, 6 for group 1, -1 for group 4. What was it? 3 for group 2, 6 for group 3, -1 for group 4, or physical manipulation, 3 off for group 2, 6 off for group 3, 1 + 1 for group 4. That's what I got. So that's 13 card sequential stack manipulation. We put about not quite 45 minutes into this. Hopefully this is useful to you out there in sequential stack land, those of you that like to use these kinds of things, and hopefully I've given you something to work with. So good luck with that, and happy magicking.